All right.
Okay. Hello and welcome to a whole new decade of the Beat Drop. This is a very special episode. We'll be talking to Prodigious, winners of the Tranquility Season 3 preseason tournament. Because your normal host, Juko High, is actually on the team, he expressed his wishes to have somebody else talk to the team. So your guest host tonight will be me, Juke. So thanks for having me, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey, Happy New Year, Juke.
Happy New Year.
So what did you guys all do for the holidays? Anything fun?
Ben, we can start with you.
Sure. So we did fireworks. We had a really good dinner, and really we just hang up with family. Just that's the main things we did. Like I just had fun with that.
Cool. What about you, Chrono?
Uh, a lot of the same. Hanging out with family, time with. Finally got moved from our room upstairs into the basement. Girl, everything's finally settled after this whole Christmas break, and we have everything out. And now actually have basically our own living space.
There
Is
you
it just
go.
me or is he cutting out a
Yeah,
little?
yeah. Sometimes Chrono has this issue with their mic where like the first and last parts of their sentences gets a little buggy, so it's probably just like a mic pickup thing.
Is that
So
better?
maybe we'll
Yeah.
we'll have to find out, but as
All
of
right.
right now, probably yeah. But I think the gist was that same thing as Ben, but Gabe has for the past couple weeks been moving from one end of the house to the other to make more space for the living arrangement with their girlfriend. So
Okay.
Yeah.
that's the gist, which is super cool. We've been following Gabe through all that. So
Is that your first time living with somebody?
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good luck with that. It
Thank
can
you.
it can be very nice, but it's also there will be some headaches. You'll get through
Yes.
it.
We're already acclimated with that.
Yeah.
there you go.
What about you, Juko? Anything fun over the holidays?
Definitely a lot. Spent time obviously with like friends and family, just like everybody else said. But I've been doing a lot of stuff internally with Prodigious and doing a lot of cool external stuff, which hopefully we'll be able to talk about. Yeah. It's super exciting. We really want to talk about it, and we can hint a few things here, but definitely not fully leak. But a
Okay.
lot of fun stuff uh, for the future of Prodigious. That's kind of separate to the community, but it's still really exciting for all of us. So it's just been kind of
Okay.
like a headache getting up to speed and all that because there's a lot of moving parts, and it's not just me and the gang anymore of making decisions. There's those people, there's the people that we're getting involved with, and a bunch of other stuff. So, and it's the holiday season, so everybody's a little slow on the react. So that kind of that's small stuff, but it's fun nonetheless. It's keeping me busy. Days go by quick. I'm excited to get back to work though, just to kind of get out of the lull of feeling like I'm doing nothing, but obviously I'm doing, or I feel like it should be obvious I'm doing a lot of stuff. So,
What do you do for work?
so I control the finances for a friend of mine's business. It's a startup in our area in Maryland,
Okay.
North Beach, and he just kind of had like an idea. Let's make a bunch of soap, start selling it. They did it like 5 years ago, but they were just like small, and they started getting too big, and they signed me on. They're like, hey, uh, we want to actually know where our money's going, and so that's what I do. I just manage the business from the financial side, and it's what I went to college to do. So it's super fun, and I get
Okay.
to hang out with my like one of my best friends every day. So super cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something else when you work with family or friends. Like it's really nice, but it also kind of changes the dynamic of that relationship. It can be you got to like keep it separate.
Right? Yeah. I've run into obstacles like that with the business, not necessarily with them, but with a couple other people that we had in the business that I knew beforehand, and our relationships were like worsened by it, and then heightened by it, and because it's been for a little bit now, and uh, so yeah, it's definitely new, and it's nerve wracking at times because you're like, I want to say something as a business professional, but I don't want it to be misconstrued as something like a personal attack. So it's a fine line.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions?
I haven't really thought of that. Like I'm more of a just kind of like go with the flow kind of guy. But when it comes to New Year's resolutions, like one of my big goals, like outside of like real life stuff, is like just be a better player in Overwatch, because like that's something I strive for, is getting better at playing.
Okay.
So that's one of
Do you
my
have like
biggest things.
do you have like a plan for how to get better? What are you gonna do different?
Well, personally having Justin here is a big deal, because he's able to coach me and teach me to get a good player. But like, I'm really gonna start like focusing on doing VOD reviews and all that other kind of stuff to really get better. So that's my
Okay.
main goal.
Yeah, reviewing your own VODs can be pretty good too. Justin is Juco High, is that
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, okay. Anybody else?
Personally, I haven't made any actual like New Year's resolutions. It's just things that I've just been working on over the years, like getting back in shape, like just focusing on how to improve in Overwatch, especially since I've gone through 3 roles. So, just learning the game and trying to improve at all stages and trying to keep up. And I think another big thing that I've also been trying to work on over the past year is just communication inside the game and outside the game. Just being able to talk with people a lot better and communicate exactly what I'm thinking, like in that moment.
I agree
Yeah,
too.
it's definitely a different skill being able to communicate in something like Overwatch, where you can't really think about what you're gonna say too hard. Otherwise, the moment's passed and it's not useful anymore. So, yeah, it's like a different kind of communication, being able to do it immediately like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Have you found it's sort of easier to play overall after you've sort of played a few different classes? Because I find that people who do that, they usually have a better understanding of the game overall.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. You definitely get a different point of view. Because there were definitely times when I first started playing, I was only playing support, and I wasn't really like playing the game a lot when I first joined the team, but I definitely picked up the game a lot. But I constantly felt like I wasn't having that much of an impact, and I didn't know where to go to have the impact. But the moment I switched roles and I went to tank, I could tell exactly like, oh, like, well, if I was the tank in this situation, I know I would want myself like here, or would want uh to be sped boost like around this corner, or like I can't help my support in this situation, so I know as a support I need to be in a position that I can help myself instead of focusing on having my tanks come back and help me.
Okay, that makes sense. So why did they sort of swap you around? Was that all on Prodigious, and why
Mhm.
did they move you from each role?
Uh, just things that happened. Sometimes we just felt it would be better if I was playing tank, because some people just were not in the current meta wanting to play that role, and just anything that would help the team. I'm basically willing to play anything. I'm not picky. As long as I'm able to help out the team and still able to play Overwatch, I'm happy.
Okay, but it's been like solid transitions from like
Yeah.
one role to another, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had situations where we have people who want to like flex from one role to another, like between maps or
Mhm.
things like that, and I found that can be more disruptive than anything.
The it's coming from the coaching side of that, because that's all of these decisions to swap roles have pretty much just come from me, and just like the ideas I have in my head. And the the algorithm that we use isn't our DPS can perform this job the best because the DPS role. The idea has
Mhm.
always been, since like the 2.5 years that this team has been together, has been like we all came into this game wanting to play characters, not a role. So if you're
Mm.
best acclimated as that character in a certain meta, I'd rather have you fill in the piece of the puzzle if it's like more cohesive. Because the issue we were having is that our off tank player Bandito was a great off tank when it came to Roadhog, when that was like the initial meta we were getting into, being Halt Hook, ice fishing, whatever you want
Mhm.
to call it. And then the meta became Sigma, and Zarya
Oh.
became also mildly viable when we'd run brawl comps and stuff like that. And that wasn't like something that Aram, aka Bandito, was as comfortable with in comparison to Gabe, who was a little bit more flexible of a player than the other supports we had, like Ben and Charlotte, who are Ben is like if there was another DPS we needed back when we could have quadruple, quintuple, sextuple DPS if we wanted to back when, before roll lock, we would put Ben
Mhm.
on that role. And so like every part of a role would have like an off role, I guess, to them of like comfortability picks. And
Mhm.
Aram's was support. So when we initially wanted to run Goats ish back before role like lock was instituted, we had him as support with Gabe uh and with Charlotte or Char Cat or Bottom. She goes by a bunch of names. And it's just kind of this hodgepodge mess of roles. There was very rarely anybody who was stuck to one role because of just what Goats had done to teach everybody how to play just tank and supports, what just owning the game before being a team player had done to get you
Mhm.
acclimated to either DPS, support, tank, whatever was your most commonly queued role. So we didn't try to restrict people at first. It wasn't until role lock was instituted did we start really trying to fill the puzzle pieces a little bit more like
Mhm.
concrete, which led us to think that Gabe was a better pick or Chrono Angel was a better pick for off tank because his pool was a little bit deeper and flexible than Aram or Banditos because he was a great one, off tank being in Roadhog, and of course he got better at like Sigma and Zarya, but he was less willing and less less ready to make that jump. So we just had Gabe who was step up and fill the role. And we already had 3 supports, so it was a little bit easier of a transition. So I understand when I see other teams that like they have a tank player swap over to DPS or support swap over to DPS or something like that to fill a
Mhm.
spot, or maybe just because they want to try out a new role and it doesn't work as well. Especially because if the team's only been together 4 months or 2 months or whatever, the cohesion's not there, and just like you said, it's disruptive. But for us, like we have days where, or multiple days at a time, where we'll have Ben queue as DPS instead of support, or one of our newer players, Jasper, play instead of tank, play DPS or support. So it's not at a moment's notice, the entire team composition could change, and we'd all feel relatively comfortable. There's a couple people
Yeah.
that are like, I don't want to play this, I don't want to play that, and that's completely fine because we have excess of it. So yeah, I wouldn't. I try not to constrict my players down to just one finite role as much as possible, just because that's how you lead to burnout, and I see a lot of other teams struggling with that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think we ran into a situation on Instalock where there wasn't very long left in the season, and we had like a few very late transitions, like people left the team, went to other teams, that sort of thing. And I felt like everybody else was just already so good at the meta, the Orisa Sigma. We tried doing it for a few weeks, and we just had no success at all. So I said, okay, everybody just pick the heroes they're most comfortable on and sort of do your own thing, but like try to help out your teammates when you can. And we just sort of ran the game that way. And obviously, like we didn't go deep into the playoffs or anything, but I felt we had a lot better success when we were playing. It felt a lot better. We were winning, some maps. So yeah, I think there's something to be said for just throwing people on comfort heroes and having them do what they're good at.
yeah, no, that's exactly how we feel over at Prodigious for the most part, because like we not to like mirror them exactly, but we like the Shangdu philosophy of
Oh
ignore the
yeah.
meta if it doesn't fit. And for us, when we first saw this meta, which in general our team is pretty anti-meta. We don't like to conform to how the internet or the player base wants us to play. We want to play the game we bought. So
Hmm.
we've always been like when Goats is around, we're like we don't like Goats. We're gonna run solo tank, triple support with Brig and
That was
Doomfist,
fun.
Sombra, or May
That was
Reaper or
fun.
something. Yeah, like we're just like, well, let's formulate strategies around it, and then our like Volskaya map is like one of our favorite maps because it's so
Yes.
linear. For other teams, they just run either double shield, or back when it was Goats, they just run Goats into it. But for us, it's always been we run like Winston Orisa to control high ground space and have a 0 point presence because we just run like Ash or Reaper or something like that. But
Hmm.
the geometry of the map enables those characters and the players we have on those characters to do so much work before the team has the opportunity to get to point, that we all just have so much fun playing the game that we very rarely have a like bad map on that one. And it's so like we found that we were having so much fun on that map, but we just stopped losing as much. And there's been other maps where we've done that, like Dorado. We got really good at doing the same things. Rialto, which I know Rialto's not in the pool right now, which is a big bummer for us. But it's we found out how to play maps certain ways that made us have fun with our roles because I love Winston on main tank. He's the whole reason I switched over to main tank off of DPS, which is what I was about a year ago. And
Mhm.
like being able to play him again is so refreshing. Being able to have an Ash for our DPS player Ixander is so much fun because that's like one of his favorite hit scan DPS picks. So it was just it's something that needed to happen when we were just like, all right, let's forget the meta, play what we want, and we were still able. We came out of season 3 pretty happy with how we played, considering the fact that we never ran the meta really for like a full map. So
Mhm.
we're really stoked to do what we did in the playoffs and
Yo,
preseason and during the season, and we grew a lot, and we like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you've mentioned the importance of like fun a few times, and I think that's definitely one of the lessons I learned in season 3. There were, without getting into it too much, there were definitely several situations I was in where I felt like the team was good, but we weren't having fun and everyone was miserable, and I felt like everything was just going to fall apart at any second. So I
Right?
think
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think like having a team that's like having fun and they're like motivated to try and they're in good spirits. I think there's something to be said for that as far as like actual effectiveness. Like it does translate into better success in game.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how did the team actually come together? You said you've been together 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Oh
So
boy, here we go.
Prodigious is a long one. So I started Prodigious, and before it was Prodigious, it was a bunch of things. It started out as sheer esports back on console. We were a console Overwatch team that
Ooh.
was created for OD before they hardcore dedicated to never running a console tournament again. So we did a couple of the Xbox tournaments that GameStop was doing in GameFi and stuff like that, and we ended up going to a tournament GameFi tournament back in I think it was started in November of 2016, so the first year that Overwatch was out, and we played in a round robin bracket, and their most notable game was against Cloud9's team at the time, and we didn't win, but it was awesome because we got to say we played against Cloud9, so I still mention it to this day, and so that like sparked me. I was like, okay, cool. I wanna keep going with this game. I feel like I got a taste of what like being good at this game looks like. I wanna push it. So I bought a computer after like saving up like fucking a year's worth of paychecks from working at Subway, and I bought a PC. I convinced all my like friends that I had at the time that had Overwatch or had the means of attaining Overwatch, and I was like, hey, let's make a team. And we didn't have a name for it really, but we called it Winston's Bubble, and Gabe was on that team, and
Okay.
I was the deep. That's when I became a DPS player back on console. I was support. It was in the Reaper meta, so it was just Anna. So nothing really interesting there. And
So at this point, the only people who have been together the whole 2.5 years, it's you and sorry, you said Ben?
Gabe
Yeah.
and not even. So it's only me
Okay.
has been there the whole time.
Okay.
Gabe was initial pickup on support with a bunch of other people that I'll remain unnamed because I didn't ask permission to tell them or have them mentioned in this one. Um,
Okay.
so
Oh,
we made that team and it immediately blew up after like a month. Like it didn't work. No one there was
Yeah.
really interested in the game at that level. And like even like Gabe's a great team player now, but he's much like in some of the other people that we have and myself. That's like if your team's not in it, it's really hard to stay invested in like
Hmm.
maintaining that level of competitiveness in the game. So
Mhm.
it pittered out for Gabe. But Gabe always told me that he's like, if you ever get a team that's willing to give it a go, I'll be back. And so I took that to heart. I ended up picking up Charlotte and Ixander at a party I went to where I got blackout drunk in University of Maryland. And
Okay.
and I met them and I was like, okay, these people are awesome. Let's talk to them and we got them hooked up on a team with me and a good buddy of mine, Titan or Major as he went by at the time.
here we go.
Yeah. He's a big Katsukan friend that we have. It's a anime convention here in Maryland that we've met a lot of cool people at. It's
Okay.
not only anime but gaming and stuff like that. It's just a really neat time. Um, and so we made a team with him, myself, one of our mutual friends, Alex, and then the DPS player we have now, Ixander, and the support player we have now, uh, Cat, and then a buddy of mine from high school, Nat. And Nat quickly went off the team. We picked up one of our friends' coworkers, and that was like our team for about a year. We had this same group of 6 just constantly playing, and we're not really doing anything. We weren't doing like OD, we weren't doing tournaments, anything like that. We ended up dropping a few people and picking up Ben. We picked up Gabe again. We've picked up Jasper. We picked up Bandito. We even had Smirk on our team for a period of time. And Smirk like kind of woke us up because Smirk was like, "What are you guys doing? You guys are practicing all the time. You're practicing like four days a week, and you're not doing anything with it. You're just playing competitive to grind the ladder." It's like I want to join a team that actually has a goal. So then we're like, okay, just to prove Smirk wrong, because Smirk left the team on that note. We're like, let's try out a community, and we found the OWTC, and was like, let's give it a shot. We gave the preseason tournament a go. We were like, well, if we do well in this, we'll keep going, and that's what we did. We got seconds. We're like, okay, yeah, let's give it a shot, and now we're here. We've picked up a couple new people, but nobody really during the season.
Okay. Yeah, so are you all from the same area? Is everyone in the team from the Northeast?
A couple of us. Yeah, Ben's from Central, South Central. Our
All the way
buddy
down to
Jasper.
Texas.
Yeah, Texas. I didn't want to say just in case. But yeah, we
Oh,
got
okay.
Texas, and then Jasper is from the West. We
Way
have
west.
Kaizen from the North Central, and then Gabe, Ike Sander or top, Shar Cat or bottom, and then myself are all from the East. We also have a new player, Laszlo, who's also from the East. But we got kind of everybody, and then Bandito, who isn't really with the team's like roster anymore, but he still helps us out internally with a bunch of other stuff like content creation and media and stuff like that. He's
Okay.
going to school in Alabama with Smirk and a bunch of other people like Crimson and people like that.
Okay. So is everyone from the team going to be at the Prodigious meetup?
Ben's not.
Puppy hands. I got college. I can't do it.
That makes sense. When
Yeah.
is that? I think it's coming up soon. right?
February 14th to the 16th at National Harbor in DC. Everybody's welcome. It's not just a Prodigious meetup. It's Katsucon, so like you can go and do your own thing there. But we have a day set aside. It's that Saturday evening where we're all just gonna go pig out at a local place and have a good time.
Okay.
Meet everybody within our Discord, which started before we were ever really a competitive team. So we're trying to get as many people there as possible. If not, we have our usual suspects. So it'll be a fun time regardless.
Okay, yeah, that's cool, and it's good to have like something planned.
Right.
I've been to a meetup thing before where there wasn't anything specific planned, and it gets weird. It gets a little weird.
Yeah, I can understand. It's just a bunch of people standing around in a room, maybe.
Yeah, just a bunch of people who don't know each other. Just a bunch of nerds who aren't used to outside interaction, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly Otakon for me when I went up there. Yeah, like because like we had a big meetup with Justin. Oh, sorry, it also started with Titan or he started with him. He was like, "Hey, you want to go to Otakon?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to Otakon." That's like, okay. So I'm like, "All right." I got a ticket. I went up there. I get out of the airport of Baltimore, and then I go outside and I just see this small little man next to his car waving at me, and I was like, wait a second, who is that? Oh my god, it's Justin. And I'm like, I'm getting in a car with a guy I've never seen before, drive to the apartment, then go into the apartment, and I'm like, there are 10 people in this apartment I've never even met before. God help me.
Also, just to make matters worse, I forgot at the time, but I'm in my 20s at this point, and Ben was underage, so it was very weird and suspect that this 20-year-old man was showing up to the airport flagging down a minor. So I still hold that L.
That's funny.
Yeah, first impressions like that can be weird when you already know each other from online. So you said it sounds like there hasn't been too many changes in the history of Prodigious, and you guys had no team transactions in season 3, but I think you said there were some people that joined the team. So how does that all work?
Yeah, we had our the main person who joined was Jasper, who's now our flex tank, and yeah, it just didn't work out that Jasper was be able to join like mid-season because we had a lot of coinciding issues where we had like a bunch of people on the team like already conformed on their roles. We didn't want to shake up the synergy too much. And then by the time that we built the synergy with Jasper, which was like kind of at a cost too, because every practice that we used Jasper instead of somebody else. It was taking away from the team synergy. But we finally got to a happy medium point where everybody felt good with each other. And Jasper was still in school at the times that we were having our games. So it was like, ooh, we can't make that happen. So we're like, we'll just hold off, wait till season 4, just keep practices going, and it's paid off. I think that by the time season 4 starts, we'll come in with a member who's already ready to go,
Oh
up
yeah,
to
dude,
snuff.
we're hyped for season 4. We cannot wait.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've talked to a few like coaches and stuff who sort of advise that the team should basically be as small as possible, like 6 people if you can. But it seems like the results in season 3 of Trank would sort of go against that. It seems like most of the teams that did really well were just the teams that had a lot of people and sort of got along. But it does seem like a different beast because it was just such a long season.
Yeah, it's I kind of mold the player management strategies that the Miami or the Florida Mayhem had and that the San Francisco Shock had. Obviously, one of them having vastly more success than the other, but still their mirrored strategies came from a very similar coaching staff in Origin. But it's that you kind of orient players on a team as if they were 2 separate teams. And you're like, all right, when this DPS lines out, this support lines out. You have this tank line out, this other, this DPS lines out, and that kind of stuff. And the
Mhm.
way that we've structured practices is that we have like kind of just like groups of like this tank, this support, this DPS is always together, and you keep that synergy going. You get like a map set list of like each player's like group of 3 to practice, and then everybody becomes super comfortable and knows, like, you don't even have to talk at the beginning of the map. You know exactly what everybody's thinking. It's the only thing that needs to be discussed is when to use abilities, positioning stuff for certain to counter certain comps. So it streamlines all the information that way, just because there's such a high level of comfortability with these specific players. Because the issue that we were having is that because we didn't have easy number to work with, like either 6 or 9, I think are the 2 best numbers that you can work with.
Mhm.
We were rocking out with 7 most of the time, so it's just like, when do we use one tank as opposed to another tank? When do we use one support as opposed to another support? And it was just a whole extra level of confusion that didn't need to be there. And I'm
Mhm.
kicking myself for it now, but at like the time, that was definitely a piece of what was holding us back, and I'm sure what can hold other teams back. So I uh I definitely agree that 6 is a super strong number. I just think any multiple of 3 in a game like this where there's 3 roles, I think is what you want to shoot for. Obviously, you can't go to 12 in the OWTC, but eh, it's it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think 6, 9 are the magic ones.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. How do you deal with the extra player? Like, do people sort of get grumpy about playing time, or like how did you find to split it in a way that the players found agreeable?
Back when we had 7, it kind of worked itself out a lot where someone would be like, hey, tonight I have so much college work I need to work on. Just log me out
Hmm.
of the game. And you're like, okay, that's fine. And our DPS players were not often the people that were the result, like the issue. So when we only
Hmm.
had 2 DPS players, so it worked out. Um, so yeah, it's like
Um,
it just like if Ben had something to do for college, it's just like, all right, we're gonna use Chrono Angel and Bottom, or Bottom's like, hey, I have to go to a meeting for school, then it's the same kind of rinse repeat. If we lose Aram on tank, then we can pull Gabe up. If we really needed a DPS, then I could go up, or Gabe could go up, or Ben could go up. So it kind of worked itself out. It only when we had all 7 were the issues that I mentioned earlier arising, where it's like, oh, what's the point of playing this off tank here? And like, really the only reason we're doing it is because you have to play them for 2 maps out of
Yeah.
the set, because that was what was required for them to be considered attending the game. um
Hmm.
and then that kind of threw off the rhythm sometimes, where you're like, oh, we didn't need a hog player here when we could use a diva player here. It's like, oh, we didn't need a Lucio player here when we could have used a Nana. So it's like, we ended up, not being as comfortable as we could be. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I would add like I would say Prodigious is a very humble group of people. We're all respect each other, and it's someone not getting to play. It just seems that our group doesn't really have a problem with that. We all seem very humble and very nice to each other, so we don't really have that issue.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the only time we'd get mad at each other for like playtime things, it was always like we were watching the match together. The person was muted, obviously, but then when the map would end, they'd be like, "Wow, you guys are so much better than this. I can't wait to get back in. I wanna prove what I can
Yeah.
do." Like we'd get more angry when we'd win. We'd be like, "I wish I was there for that map." That kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mhm.
It wasn't. There's never an ounce of toxicity, which
The
is something
competitiveness
I
out of the
enjoy.
competitiveness,
Yeah,
even more competitive.
we want to one up each other more than we want to one up
Mhm.
anyone else in the community.
True that.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What do you think the biggest or like most important lesson you learned from season 3?
Ben's a thrower.
This is facts. Uh,
No,
I would-
definitely time management.
Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah, because like I said before, we didn't have like a tournament or a league or a community or anything that we were in before when we were just practicing. So missing a practice literally meant nothing. But
Hmm.
now it's like, oh, we're gonna take this Monday off because we're all kind of busy with school or whatever. And you're like, no big deal. This school comes first. And then when you get to the game and we're like, dang it, because we like you just didn't have that extra day where we rely so
Yeah.
heavy on it. And I'd say that for me personally, it was a time management thing. It's like I got to get better with that kind of stuff. I try to sectionalize like section off parts of my life time wise, and I
Mhm.
had to get better at that. So that was it for me. I don't know about you two.
I think a big thing for me as a main thing is the team finding a game plan and sticking to it. Because there were a lot of times, especially like mid season when like the meta really changed, that we would have like this plan that we wanted to do, but the moment it didn't work, like the first time, instead of sticking to it and working on it, we would instantly try to change something.
Yeah.
And we would have this whole game plan laid out. Then we would try to change something, and then we had nothing to go off of besides, well, try to play at your best. So
Well, who is the IGL who would kind of decide whether you want to keep at it and maybe make a few like changes to the strategy or just ditch it and go to something else? Who makes that decision?
Both Justin and Alex. Or
Alex is an
Alexander.
Alexander, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a combination of the two of us. I was more behind the scenes like before the games or like right before we started playing, the guy who was
Mhm.
constructing the team together. But when frustration settled in, it was kind of everybody has a voice at that point. The minute someone's like, "I'm
Mhm.
not having fun," everybody's like, "All
Mhm.
right, let's pull out. Let's think what we're doing." And like Gabe said, around mid-season is probably the worst we ever were about it. We were just like
Mhm.
so unwilling to stay on a strategy. We were just like, "All right,
Yeah.
well, let's try something else right now." And for the better or for worse, it did what it did. We lost games, we won games, but towards the end of the season, it got a little bit better because we were finally getting into the groove of like, hey guys, we're not performing our best, not because we're worse or anything right now. It's just because we're so hesitant to run what we practice because it's not what everyone else is doing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
once we kind of woke up to that fact, we were able to pull ourselves up and have a good game against Alta 4 in the playoffs. And we put up a good fight against Meteors. No one came out of that game really thinking that we didn't give it our all. So that was what was important. We were able to finally be happy with it, with how games were turning out, because about mid-season is when like every game we went in, we're like we're not even trying. We're doing terrible. So
Mhm.
just because of the issue that we were having of not of dedication. So I think that was
Not
a good
not to
one,
get
Gabe.
in. Sorry. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just didn't simply adjust. We weren't. We were just like Justin said. We're kind of more or less stubborn. We're like, we don't want to change. We want to keep this up. We like doing this, and but Overwatch is a game about not just playing one hero. You got to be able to flex on the others. You can't just play one. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Not to get into the subpoint too much, but there's like a thing in Dota where you have losses that are because of your performance and you have losses that are because of your strategy, and like the difference between them is pretty clear. And I think people feel different ways about like different types of losses. Like what does it bother you more when you underperform and it's because of the overall game plan or because of you're missing your shots or you're not in the right position or things like that? Like
As the
What
guy who's
feels worse?
dedicated like 300 plus pages of notebook paper to writing down strategies and trying to convey them to my team, for sure
Mhm,
strategies, because that feels like a shot in the in the foot, because you're like,
mhm,
oh, this is I poured so much of my time into this to try to compensate for my team's strengths and weaknesses and make sure everybody's comfortable and that we can outperform most teams on this given map. And then when you finally put all the pieces together, you've practiced it, you fine tuned it, you get to match day and it falls flat on its face, it feels really bad. But then I know that there's players like I know Ben and Ikesander have this in game call out that they do when they're like, I'm performing at my max, and they're like they're juiced up. They're doing really well, but the team fights aren't still going their way. And I think those are the moments where certain players like those two, and I think everybody shares it. It's not one way or the other, but that are like, just someone's just outperforming me even though I'm at my 100%, and that can
Yeah.
be really that can be more stifling because you're
mhm.
like I'm literally at my limit.
Yeah,
So
it's just like, well, I say all the time, I can't do more. Like that's what I say. I literally can't do more. I'm doing my maximum ability. I'm hitting sleeps. I'm getting antis. I'm getting my ult fast. But it's just not working. It's like, what do you do?
Mm.
I think for me personally, it's more of when the game plan isn't executed on. Uh, Personal things like missing shots and everything, that can be fixed in game really quickly and really easily just by recognizing, oh well, I missed that shot. Don't let me, like, just get that shot out of your head. Just make the next one.
Mhm.
I think for me the biggest thing is when you mess up on a game plan, because that affects the team a lot more and it's a lot more noticeable and it's a lot harder to fix in game. And that's why I also thought that learning to stick to a game plan instead of just saying, oh, well, we can't do it, let's try to do something else, is something that we really worked on. And we really focused on having strategies that we were going to do. And it doesn't matter what point in the game, this is the best thing we can do because we've practiced it and not to drop it. So,
right.
Okay.
I think something that's really important about a couple of our players' mindsets and a good healthy mindset I recommend that everybody kind of look into is like there's no player or team even at like the top level that's objectively better than anyone else. It's all about it's never in a vacuum, it's all about situations. And you put yourself in a bubble, I guess, when you're playing bad, you're like this person's better than me, and I am it's impossible for me to outperform them in any capacity, right? And then
Mhm.
you take a second and you're like, well, maybe my cooldown management on this ability is better. Maybe my positioning on this character is better. So there's always like avenues you can take in this like in this hidden rock paper scissors that is FPSs and MOBAs and stuff like that. Anything where
Mhm.
there's like ability cooldown management. And you need to understand your strengths as a player and use them and don't overextend what you're capable of doing, but play within your means. And I think that's when
Yeah.
you're able to like actualize what you're capable of doing to like in a healthy way, in a way that's it's good for your team, it's good for your mentality, it's good for just how you should play. And what as long as you're achieving that, that's fine. It's the strategy is definitely the part that we get kind of lost in sometimes,
Mhm.
like as players. But as long as you understand your role in the team, are able to maintain uh, your level of output, I think that's all you should be happy with if you're getting that done, and the wins will come. It's the
Mhm.
it's definitely like a fighting game background thing that I have is the reason like I had to get over that mental hurdle because the minute you start comparing yourself like technical proficiency to another player is the moment you're gonna lose the game because
Mhm.
that's not what wins games. It's
mhm.
how you prepare. It's how you're ready to adapt to situations, not how fast you can click a button. In most cases, obviously, when it comes down to like the nitty gritty of the teams that are so neck and neck, that's when APM, that's when high skill can like kind of trump strategy. But in such a heavily MOBA based game like this, I think it's not something we should be worried about nearly as much.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the biggest lessons I've learned. I think the two that I've learned are one, like you can acknowledge that somebody else might be better overall or like better at certain aspects of the game, but the important thing is to like find a way to win anyways. Like I've won plenty of games against teams that are like legitimately they have better strategies, or I can tell they have like more talented players, but you know, you can still find a way to win. And that's something else I learned a long time ago, back when I was playing Tribes. There was a team that I looked up to a lot, and I never thought, you know, I'd be able to reach that same level. But at the end of the day, like we're just a bunch of like people playing video games. Nobody's ever gonna just like be better forever, you know, regardless of anything you do. There's always a way around it. You can practice, you can get better. Like, you know, they're reachable. You can get to that next level. So yeah, is that did everybody say their what they learned over season 3?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was
Yes.
everyone. Cool. What is the team gonna do differently for season 4? What's going to be the biggest change coming for Prodigious?
A lot of the biggest changes for Prodigious, I don't know if I could even talk about too much yet.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't say anything.
Yeah, we have a lot going on internally.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll try to say as much as I can, and
I can-
if I
uh,
start saying things that you guys think I should just like hold off on, just say something, just say cut.
Okay,
Like I just don't let
I
me do
mean,
it. But I'll try to do
like-
my best. Um, we got big with our with the players we have at our disposal, and we don't really know what to do.
Mhm.
Everybody's more a friend first kind of thing, so it's really difficult when you're like, hey, I see. So like let's put names to these ideas.
sure.
Mhm.
Kaizen is not a Discord tier level DPS. He's transcendent. Like he's so good. He got nominated as like an MVP, right? Like that's crazy. That's super cool. And the same thing goes for like a couple other players we picked up, like Jasper, like super good tank. A Laszlo, our other tank that we picked up, super good. Like they're like
Yeah.
Jasper's like super good. Laszlo's collegiate level, so also really good. Um, Ikesander, he's been playing a little bit more support lately because of the BAP like changes, and he's hit scan DPS, so like he's having a lot of fun there. And we're like,
Mhm.
he's probably ready. Ben's ready. Like there's a bunch of other players that we picked up that are ready to take it to the next step. And but then there's players like me and like Chrono Angel and Charlotte that I personally believe we're all still Discord, and that's like we're not. I definitely am not ashamed by it. Like I love it. I love where I am right now, and I
Mhm.
want to see my players succeed rather than just be like have this unnecessary limit that I'm putting on myself where we all have to be on the same team. Um, as long as we're within the same org, I'm pretty happy. So we're trying to kind of split up a little bit. We want to have a trans
Okay.
team and we want to have a Discord team. So we've locked in the Discord spot because we're all technically able to do that. I think if we don't overperform on our placements, which we might do because like most of us are masters now, so it's like our team average would be really weird. Um,
Mhm.
so we're currently in the midst of trying to handle that situation, and then we have the team that we were working on all of season 3 for Harmony, which is Modify, and that team kind of fell a little flat on its face. We have 3 players who are super interested in keeping the dream alive, but 3's not 6, so it's like, what do you do?
Mhm.
I'm offering them the avenue of finding a new team, but that would suck because we're like, that's not what we want to do. We want
No,
them to be with us.
Apex, stay
They're
with me.
yeah, like they're so nice and they're good, just good people. So like, but they're all kind of ready to go to Discord at this point. They've been practicing for a while, so we're like, do we just add them to the Discord team that we've been making? Like it's crazy. And then we have this external entity, as I'll refer to it as, who's driving us to join like OD and stuff like that, and give us more incentives to do better. And
Mhm.
they brought along players that they want us to like try out for the team, like this DPS player named Happy, and they're very nice. And I wanna explore all these avenues, but it's the holiday season. I have very little contact with most of my players because it's just everyone's busy and it's understandable. And I it's a lot on my plate. It's a lot on Prodigious's plate. And when we're finished, we'll be good to go. But in these like growing stages where these all these like pains going on, like it's kind of a headache. But I think season 4 is going to be better than season 3. I think we'll have more of our ducks in a row. You'll see more content coming out of us because we'll hopefully have at least 2 teams, if not 3. And then
Oh,
yeah, I know, right? Like it's crazy. And then
no.
we want to just start expanding beyond this community because like this community is awesome, and we want to explore other ones because we've just met so many cool people here. So like, there's definitely more
Okay.
out there. Little side note, I guess, is I guess we're looking for Harmony tier players, maybe. I don't know. Use this opportunity.
Okay.
If anybody's
Uh,
interested, let me know. I love people, so if you're a person, you're more than welcome.
I'll send you cat pics.
Cool.
We have cat pics,
Yeah.
kind
all
of
kinds
dogs.
Are they better than the cinnamon cat picks from Jetpack Cats?
Ooh,
Probably not. I can't beat
Oh.
them though.
we have
Okay.
a lot of cat owners though, so we have a variety.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's something.
The real cats.
So you've kind of talked about how things are friends first, how you don't like to make a lot of roster moves. There were a lot of teams in season 3 of Trank that rebuilt, or I think a lot of them had kind of a different philosophy. A lot of them did not seem to be, friends first. Do you think a team like yours is going to be able to compete in season 4? And like, where do you realistically see your team ending up?
I think that's the toughest question, right? Because none of us are able to see that far ahead. The main reason that I was like no roster transactions is that I wanted a baseline of what no roster transaction Prodigious looked like, because all these other players are some of, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are veterans in the community, and they kind of had more exposures. Like, what time in the season should we be switching players in and out? When do we give up on one player and pick up another? And I personally was like, I couldn't even fathom when to do that. Like, I was like, I'm not even gonna try. So we're gonna see. We're gonna have in like the scientific method. It's like the control, right? And that's what season 3
Mm.
was for us. We see what we can output baseline. No augmentations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what season 4 is gonna be. It's gonna be our first test to see what we can do with this acquired knowledge and a little bit more solid foundation to work off of. So I can't really tell you where we'll end up, but I'd like to think just objectively better because we have the knowledge under our belt. We have new players that we've already forged like bonds with, and I no one's like there's no reason for us to be worse. And I think with the separation of tiers, I think the Discord tier Prodigious is just gonna stand out a little bit more than it did when you had a bunch of like super awesome players just kind of stuck in a tier that was kind of outlined not for them. And I'm super happy for Transcendence to be a thing because that adds 2 things. It's like, one, it makes things a little bit more competitive for the top level of the previous Discord tier, and it also gives Discord tier players a more finite goal. They're like, hey, if I get to this point, I can be with these level of players. I can finally see myself as a force to be reckoned with and stuff like that. And I think I always envied Harmony having that. They're like, oh, if I get super good, I get to join this team. But if it was Discord, it's like, if I get super good and my team is not as good, I have to leave my friends to go join some super cool team. And like, that's nice and everything, but friends are friends. So like, I don't know. I'd rather move up together than just like individually, and that always like disappointed me when I saw that because I was like, I just feel bad for the team that any friends on that team that just kind of have to lose another one. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I was definitely in situations where it felt like roster transactions probably would have been the right move, but it's so hard to make those decisions. Yeah, it's always something that's not fun to do. I like with aimbots, I loved all those guys, but I mean, it was pretty clear after like 6 or 7 weeks of like losing all our matches and not even close, we were just doing awful, that something needed to change. But it's weird, you don't want to make those changes. So yeah.
now we really
I-
liked you guys
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you were aimbots. You guys were like our favorite team to talk with. So that was it was a huge bummer for us. We were all really upset when you guys left. Super
Yeah,
super cool to see that you were still in the community, like specifically. But yeah, it was a huge bummer. So I understand. Yeah, I can see. Or I think I can imagine how it was.
yeah, like everybody acknowledges that they have their own personal flaws, and a lot of times you can kind of get over it, but just for whatever reason, we did not have the necessary chemistry. Things just didn't work. Even though out of game I got along with everybody, I didn't have any, issues with anyone. It's just kind of weird. You got to have the chemistry. That's the most important thing to have in a team.
Yeah, and like it's kind of hard to let go of someone when you've had a formal Vietnamese dinner with them. So like that helps, doesn't it,
We
Justin?
did not go to a Vietnamese restaurant.
What was it?
Chinese.
It was Chinese.
It was a Chinese
Oh.
restaurant.
Ah, okay, got you.
How did you get those two confused?
I don't remember which one it was. Because I think it was like a Vietnamese above us and Chinese below. I can't remember.
It was DC, so yes, there was a Vietnamese place right next door.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
But it was like American Chinese, where everything's covered in like sugar and fried.
No,
Okay.
no. This is as
It was
authentic as it can probably get for DC. So like definitely not like a Hunan Palace, like off the highway kind of like fast food joint where you can taste the cigarette smoke. Like it was more of like as genuine as you can get. It was it's pretty cool. It's a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that was really, we have a bunch of bonding memories as a team. Not everybody's met everybody, but we've done our due diligence to meet as many people as possible. Aaron made quite an impression by showing up to one of our college parties from kind of just out of nowhere from Alabama and got super drunk in like 2 minutes. Good for him.
What do you think is the most memorable moment for each of you in season 3?
When I got my nickname, that was awesome.
What was your nickname?
Oh, Juke. I think it was either Juko the Juggernaut or Juko High the Juggernaut. Like I think I don't remember if it was Ski who did it or if it was Door, but it was in our game against Alt F4, so it's pretty late.
Okay.
And I've never considered myself like a driving force in our team, like play wise at all. So it was super cool to see that like there was people that are interested in how I was playing Reinhardt, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. I vibed with that. Like you can ask any of our like fans that come out to the games that get streamed, which are very few, but like I have a passive on all of my main tanks where it's I perform better when people hype me up. Like I like my movement speed is increased and my ult charge is faster. It's like that kind of stuff.
That sounds
So
pretty good.
yeah,
that's
it's
our,
really
that's our usual
busted.
game plan is just simply shove everything into Justin. He'll carry us to victory. If we don't have a game plan, that's what we do.
Yeah, I'm about to say like that's if we don't have a game plan.
Just shove it into Justin.
Yeah.
He'll do something.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Nano him, give him the bubbles.
What's your here's a question that I know Juke doesn't have like have in the docket, but I would love to hear your guys' opinion. What's your favorite in-game call out that you've heard? Because my favorite one to give is someone with a gun.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite right there. Please, someone with a gun. I only have a hammer.
It's that's my second favorite. My favorite is when somebody starts screaming and then everybody looks at them. That's mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Word. That's a little
Like,
bit
I've seen-
universal.
Yeah, because like Alex will like start screaming and I'm like, where is he? I'm literally like panicking.
Oh,
Where
okay.
did he
Now I
go?
get it a little bit more when you give it the screaming for healing. I forgot that you're a healer sometimes.
Yes.
I see.
I know I'm a DPS like half the time, but whatever.
I know this is a little self-stroking, but we have very very common phrases that everybody says, and I've fallen into bad habits. Ike Sanders is usually not words, but like it's like that.
It's
So-
like, what do I do with that?
Yeah, it's literally it's useless comms, but I feel like every team has it, and it's super fun.
I have
Are there
like,
any comms that are unique to your team? That,
Someone with a
you
gun.
might- yeah, that you might be able to translate for us.
So I can tell you someone with a gun. I feel like that's kind of a little bit obvious, but I play main tank, and very
Ah.
rarely do I play Orisa or Ball. I play a lot of Winston or Reinhardt, so I never really have a ranged like way to handle somebody that isn't Fire Strike. So when I miss Fire Strike as Rein, I usually just scream at my team, "Someone with a gun, please shoot that person," because like I know they're one and I know I can get them, but you don't want to see me go get them because that charge is going and it's going far. So like I might not make it back. So I usually try to get one of my DPS players to just pop a shot in them as McCree or whatever, or go chase him down as Genji or something silly. So there's that one, and then I guess another good one that it's more of reminiscence to Aram, and I think everybody kind of uses this term of I'm going in, but usually like when someone says I'm going in, like it's a positive thing, right? It's like, oh, this person's gonna go and use an ult and kind of carry the team fight. But with Aram, it was a toss up because he's Hog. He thinks he can do a lot sometimes, but he's Hog at the end of the day. And it was kind of like it was either do we completely step away from the team fight? Do we just let off the gas and just let Aram die with an ult? Or do we try to push this theoretical advantage that he thinks we have? That's a favorite one of mine for sure. Is
Sometimes it worked though.
no, yeah, like 1 in 18. Like it was really good. But every other time it's like, all right, you're whole hogging into a into a tracer or something. Like it's not
Definitely.
it ain't happening, Captain. So
I would say mine is kind of referring back to the screaming. It's like I know like everybody says like go, but like if you guys remember, like I'll scream the word go in matches, like as in like at the top of my lungs, like my voice will break. Like when we're going like into a fight, I'll say go go go, but I'm gonna not say it as loud, but I will scream. So things like
so
that
does
happen.
so does the volume do they know like the louder it is, the more important it is to go right now?
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
we're always at
Okay.
max. I don't know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say another fun one is in team fights when people are like diva diva diva, like you kind of call out who it is by repeating their name. We kind of just feel like we kind of like go slap the heck out of. We don't use heck. We use a little bit more vulgar terms. We're like we use like a little bit more elongated of like go punch the heck out of soldier, and then everyone's like, all right, word. So we all go and grab it. It's never the OWL call outs, and I think it's always funny because I find myself laughing. There's one time where we were like a team fight on Eichenwald, and I was laughing so hard that I put down like the mouse. I just couldn't handle it because it's just they're so funny when like we're having a good time and we're just winning in a team fight, and people are just saying absolutely just like the most hilarious things I've ever heard about such a like weird situation that I can't really express to like outside world people who don't play Overwatch. It's just like I'm like I'm laughing. My roommate's like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "Oh, there was this smaller character and I beat her with a hammer. It was very funny." And they're like, "Okay, very cool. I'm
Yeah.
glad we shared that."
I love it when we're brawling and like we'll just like when it's all like really close, instead of like being call outs, it's just everybody's screaming a different hero for some reason. No one screams the same hero. It's like somebody screaming Diva, somebody screaming Reinhardt, and then we'll hit our soldier, and then we'll all look at the soldier because he's DPS, and then we'll go kill him. It's just funny.
Yeah, I think similar to your like the louder you get, the more important it is thing. Back on aimbots when we had Street Baggy Abar playing Genji from time to time, I always knew when he was ulting or about to ult because you would just start hear him like hyperventilating into the mic, just like,
I like that.
and it wasn't intentional. He was just that into it.
He's just licking his
So,
lips. He's ready to go.
Yeah, so when I heard him breathing real hard, I'm like, okay, he needs focus on heals. He's going in there. So yeah, like everybody develops these little things. So yeah, we don't have too much time left. But speaking of time, there is a long while until season 4. What are you guys going to be doing until then? I think it's end of February.
That's trying to figure out how we're gonna stack up for these tiers. Hopefully, we still have open slots in the tiers. It looks like they're going really fast to kind of get everything handled. So we're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be doing as much scrims as we can. So if there's any teams that wants to scrim us, we're down. Hit us up. We currently have like very little scrim partners just because it's the holiday season. Not everybody's really down. But now that we're getting closer, I think everybody's trying to get a jump start. So that's what we're trying to emulate. And Otherwise, from that, just log as much FaceTime with each other as possible. We have the Maryland people. I want to meet everybody, on my team. Well, actually, I know pretty much everybody except Laszlo, but I've been trying to make that happen. Your teammate just hit me up to try to hang out in the server because they're from Maryland as well. From this cast, I hear that my big Marf is from Maryland. Would love to hang out with them. So like, it's just I wanna meet everybody. I wanna start doing a couple live events too. I wanna like if there's ever any homestand stuff for OWL. I want to check out that and meet everybody because I was really jealous when everybody went to the finals and I didn't get to see anybody. I was like, shoot, darn, or BlizzCon or stuff like that. So it's like, So I wanna meet the community more in the off season as much as possible.
We should definitely do PAX East.
PAX East would be fun. Gabe goes to that sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't gone I didn't go last year, but I do love. PAX is great. I do recommend everybody goes to it.
BlizzCon 2020.
So Ben Chrono, kind of the same for you guys, just kind of trying to hang out with people in the off season.
For me, it's not really my focus to hang out with people. I'm definitely gonna try to swing up and get food with everybody if it's possible. When they do that at Katsu. But for me, it's now that I have everything settled and I haven't been able to play the last 2 weeks, it's definitely getting back on the grind and just trying to improve at Overwatch as quickly and efficiently as possible. So,
yeah, I'm in the bad side of it. I live too far away. Like, if I get an event, I'll go. That's all I can do.
Okay. Cool. Well, sounds like you guys got plans for this whole long off season. So yeah, thanks for talking to me. I think I learned a lot more about Prodigious, and I had a lot of fun filling in for Juco while he was, on his own show.
Which is cool. I've been wanting this for a bit.
He's been excited.
Thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah, Juke's the true homie.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have anything to close with before we go?
Justin's a feeder.
Yeah, no, that's hard facts. I guess just look out for us in season 4 because the minute we can tell you the big news, we'll tell you all. I'm a little upset that I can't do it today. I was told by the external group that we would be able to tell everybody by New Year's, but it got pushed back. So I wanna tell everybody, but I can't. But once it happens, we'll be there.
Just grinding his teeth.
Big news
Big
coming.
news still coming. Cool. All right. Well, I guess for me, I don't tweet that much anymore, but you can still find me on Twitter at FREND all one word. We got big plans for the Twitch team coming up for Trank Season 4, so I'm going to be doing a lot of that stuff. I may or may not be streaming I'm doing like a Monster of the Week campaign with some people from Trank. We're going to have Lays, Booth, and maybe Cryptic. And Door's going to be in that as well.
Nice.
So that's going to be fun. And just anybody, if you want anything from me, just reach out on Discord mostly. I guess that's it for me.
Hey, thanks, Juke.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Great time.
Peace, everybody.
Bye.